Big Break podcast, where we delve into the rich history of jazz to celebrate artists, entrepreneurs, and jazz enthusiasts alike. Join our host, Dr. Dina Bennett, well-known ethnomusicologist and executive director of the American Jazz Museum, on a journey into the stories behind the art. Let's go.
Hello, and welcome to the American Jazz Museum's Big Break series. I'm your host, Dr. Bennett, and today we have a special guest who is making waves not just in the world of health and wellness, but also in our vibrant Kansas City community. Joining us is Chris Goode, the visionary owner of Ruby Jean's Juicery. Chris has built a thriving business dedicated to promoting a healthier lifestyle through his juices and smoothies. His journey from entrepreneur to community leader is as inspiring as it is impactful. In this episode, we'll explore Chris's journey for health, the story behind Ruby Jean's Juicery, and his commitment to giving back to the community. Stay tuned for an engaging and uplifting conversation with Chris Goode. This is an episode you won't want to miss. Can you tell us about your personal journey and what inspired you to start Ruby Jean's Juicery?
Yes, thank you for having me here today.
Thank you
Pleasure
for being here.
You. Personal journey and what inspired me. So Ruby Jean was my late grandmother. She was a woman of very few words. She would give you a look and you already knew what time it was. You knew what you needed to do differently. She came here from Muskogee, Oklahoma, originally Vian, Oklahoma, then Muskogee, and then Kansas City. She came here for life in a bigger city, more opportunity in this big old city of Kansas City. And my grandmother, she was this woman that she didn't speak a lot, but she loved us in a very specific way. And it was always through her food, whether it was breakfast, lunch, normally a Sunday dinner, it was food that was her love language, if you will. And the food that she loved us through was soul food.
Okay.
I don't have to tell you what soul food is, but I got peas with everything in them, sweet potatoes with everything in them, collard greens with everything in them, fried chicken, fried pork chops, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, because of that lifestyle, my grandmother got sick when she was around 60 years old. But she ended up being admitted to what was Truman Medical Center then, primarily with type 2 diabetes. And so my grandmother ended up on life support. And, we knew that the end was near. And so my great-grandmother still lived in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and we affectionately called her Mom. And so Mom came to town, ultimately just to say goodbye to her baby. She comes in, she spends that final hour with my grandmother, and normally when we see Mom, it was us taking a caravan down to Muskogee, for the summer. This time it was much different. You could see the pain in her face. So she went and spent that final hour with my grandma. She came out, looked around at us, kind of assessed the room. She took this big gasp for air. She had a massive heart attack and ended up dying 2 days before my grandmother.
Oh, my goodness.
So my great-grandmother transitioned unexpectedly from the waiting room of St. Luke's on the Country Club Plaza.
Okay.
And then 2 days later, we took Ruby Jean off life support. And so for me as a 14-year-old kid, I had never experienced grief. I had never, like the shriek that I heard from my mother, I had never heard. The pain, I had never experienced it. And so went through that whole process of grieving, of saying goodbye to my grandmothers. But I made a vow, kind of a silent vow to myself that I would tell people one day how amazing my grandmothers were. I would tell people about their superpowers. My mom, my grandma, my great-grandma, all of them were really effectively poor. Like they didn't have very much, came from the east side of, Kansas City and small town Oklahoma. And so didn't have very much. But as an adult, what I recognize is that I look back and I never saw them, carrying themselves in a way that would say that they were poor. I saw them full of life, full of joy, full of dignity, full of pride, cooking, laughing, dancing. just really, really evoking a high level of joy. Now, fast forward, I didn't know that Ruby Jean's Juicery would be the outlet to, display that superpower, but that's what God had in store. I ended up starting Ruby Jeans in July 25th of 2015 after I had gotten introduced to cold pressed juice by way of friends, falling in love with it, visited juice bars across the country with my travels for work. But I wanted to bring it to Kansas City in a way that I hadn't seen it done before.
Okay.
In a way that just reflected grandma's house, the essence of walking into my grandma's house, and no matter how I was feeling, like leaving in a whole different spirit. So Ruby Jeans was started July 25th of 2015, which we just celebrated 9 years in business. And my grandmother
Congratulations.
Thank you. Just a few days ago, my grandmother would have been gone from us 25 years.
Wow.
And so we started Ruby Jeans in her honor, but really to allow Black people, and then not stopping at Black people, everybody to see health in a way that's approachable, in a way that's tangible, in a way that's real, in a way that's not perfect. It's not spoken from this pedestal, this place of projection of like, hey, we're experts, we're perfect, and you should do this, you should do that, but in a way that says, nah, this is for everybody. And it hasn't always been positioned that way, but this really is for everybody.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And to know your great-grandmother, not everyone gets that opportunity.
Yeah.
To know their great-grandmother, but they sound like extraordinary women.
Yeah.
And you should be very, very happy that they're shining down on you.
Thank you.
So one of my questions is about your location. So you are over on Troost.
Yes.
And what was the thinking behind where you would be located? Because, you seem very community focused, which I want to get into later, but the location, tell us about that.
So 30th and Troost, it was actually brought to me. I think that 30th and Troost chose me when I was a little boy. So when I was a kid, I went to a place called St. Vincent's. Two nuns started this school for impoverished children, kids of less means, families of less means. And that place is now known as Operation Breakthrough. I have the great fortune of attending and being the first person to now serve on the board of directors. In the building that we own now at 30th and Troost, it's just cat-a-corner to where Operation Breakthrough is. And so back in the day, when I walked into the building, it was the day old bread store. And so I would go in with my grandmother, with my mom, and we'd get bread, treats that were going to expire, sooner than other places.
Sure.
And so for me to be able to walk in those doors as a poor kid, buying day-old bread, and to then, many, many years later, decades later, to have the opportunity and ability to purchase the real estate, I think that location preceded what I can conceptualize, So that was
a full circle moment.
Very, very full circle.
Yeah.
So for the modern day experience, I had a broker named Cheryl who first brought me a deal, and she said, hey, what do you think about potentially opening a location on Troost? And to be honest, when I first heard it, I was like, no way. There's no way. Like, I know how hard it is, already being in Westport, already having had a location downtown, to think that 30th and Troost would be something that was viable. My first mind was like, it wouldn't work. But then I prayed on it, I rested on it, and I let it marinate. And I kind of became disappointed with myself that I was so dismissive of the idea so fast, because I felt like I was perpetuating a stigma that has long been attached to, Troost Avenue. And so my second brain, after letting it rest and like thinking it through and praying about it, it became very, very important that I saw that through, because I knew that the way that my gut instinct was as a reaction, that if I didn't do it, something like that would likely never happen in a healthy capacity on Troost.
Okay.
And so I leaned into it. I called her back. I said, let's do it. and I put everything I had into making sure that it could happen. The building owner at the time really, met us, like they filled in the gap to actually build out the real estate, get it to where we needed. I think they made a wise decision in reaching out to us, to be the entrepreneur in the space, because they were really looking at it as kind of a facilitator of a larger real estate play for them.
Oh, okay.
And so 30th and Troost, it became very central to us as a business, why we do what we do. I mean, my grandmother worked in Superior Linen, the linen factory just a couple blocks over on Cherry. I went to daycare across the street, as I shared. The actual building was a place that my family frequented. The bus stop that we use is just up the street. And so Juice on Troost became a thing in November of 2017.
I love it.
Yeah.
So many intersections with your life, the locations. So.
Absolutely.
Well, you've kind of touched on it, but what role does the Kansas City community play in the success and growth of Ruby Jean's Juicery?
I think that the Kansas City community, for my mind, is very central to who we are as a brand, as an existence, because, I honestly could have taken Ruby Jeans as a concept to a more juice-friendly environment, a more juice-friendly city. But I knew that Ruby Jeans is something that had to happen in Kansas City because, we celebrate our food on a high level, and we should. It's a part of who we are. But we don't have honest conversations about what the types of food that we celebrate is doing to us as people. And so I wanted to create Ruby Jeans in a way that could embody the essence of how we celebrate food and how we find comfort in food, but really give it a 180 and only put things across the counter that offer life, that are good for people. And along the entire way, ever since July 25th of 2015, this city has wrapped its arms around Ruby Jeans. It's been integral to who we are as a business, why we are as a business. It's as much as a part of Ruby Jeans as I am at this point. And so Kansas City is baked into who we are. And, it's something that I always really wanted was for Ruby Jeans to one day be considered a part of this, this beautiful fabric of a city that we all know is Kansas City, that we love. And, slowly but surely, by the grace of God, that's starting to take place.
That's awesome. Tell us about what you have here.
So, right here, I have our cold pressed juice. This is 2 flavors. We have 7 that are to market. This is 2 of those flavors. On your side is the Gigi Splash. It's really our fruit punch. Okay. And so it's got pineapple, red apple, pear, strawberry, orange, and lemon. And it's a fruit punch. So it's palatable for anybody, but it's all fruits. It doesn't have any added sugar, no water. It's just pure fruits. And you get the natural sugar from it, and it's delicious. You can have it if you want it.
Okay. I will swipe it after we go off camera.
And then this one is our Vine Street Greens. In the name, there's an ode to Vine Street, to our jazz district. It's always been on our menu from the very beginning.
Okay.
I love it. A green juice that has red apple, green apple, cucumber, spinach, kale, lime, pineapple, ginger. I think I said everything.
Okay.
But it's a green cold pressed juice, and it's the middle of the road. It's got your veggies, it's got your fruits, but it's a really, really smooth, approachable green juice. Whereas a lot of time, green juice can be aggressive, abrasive, and very dirty.
Okay.
This is a middle of the road, clean green juice.
Yeah, very healthy. Yeah. So, you are at 30th and Troost.
Yes, ma'am. 30th.
But where else do you have some of your products?
So physically, from a retail perspective, we're at 30th and Troost. That's Ruby Jean's Kitchen and Juicery. So it has our full menu, everything from beverages, snacks to a healthy, fast, casual food menu. We're inside of Whole Foods in Brookside. Extremely proud of that location as well. We're the first ever Black-owned brick and mortar business to ever set up in a Whole Foods. We're in Springfield, Missouri, another store-in-store concept.
Okay.
And
that's a college town too, isn't it?
That's where I went to undergrad.
Okay.
So we've got a location inside of a grocery store called Price Cutter down there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a location in CPKC Stadium, the Currents Women's Soccer Stadium.
Yes.
And then we do a lot of hybrid mobile offerings. So you can find us at City Market on Saturdays and Sundays. We just put our trailer at Kauffman Stadium for the first healthy offering the Royal Stadium has likely seen ever, which is a big deal. What else we have going on from a retail perspective? That's, for the most part, that's it, retail. But then we've broken into wholesale. And so we sell our juice at a number of outlets, namely in Whole Foods, as far as Bozeman, Montana, and 35 of their locations.
Wow.
And then we're in a number of coffee shops, hotels, hospitals, grocery stores here in town.
I'm sure your grandmother didn't realize she'd be spreading herself across the country, her name and all. That's really awesome. So wonderful.
Yeah, no, she
was. What a legacy.
Thank you. She was shy. She was a shy woman. Like I said, a woman of very few words. So she probably, I might get popped if she saw how many places her face is nowadays.
Wow.
And it's only growing, and we're grateful for it.
Okay. So why do you believe promoting healthy living is so important, especially in urban communities?
I mean, what we are is we're this contradiction, right? So people will see the name Ruby Jeans and they'll say like, oh, are these your grandmother's recipes? And then, I wish they were.
Sure.
I wish they were her recipes. I wish she was informed of a healthier lifestyle. I wish she had the knowledge of just a healthier existence. And so in her honor, what I would have hoped that she had knowledge of, to give her more time here, we want to extend to other people. The information that she didn't have, we really exist to give it to other people freely and honestly and simply, without barrier, without being bougie, without, making it too fruitful or too unattainable or too niche or too this or too that. We don't chase like, grasshoppers are really trending right now. If you air fry grasshoppers and you put salt and cayenne, we don't do all that. We keep it simple, make it approachable. And so I think people having access to healthier lifestyles is, honestly, it's the biggest domino that we could ever encounter, right? Being a healthier person, not from a place of perfection, but just healthier.
Yes.
Like actually having some consciousness around, I've been off. I need to do just a little bit better. My mood's been off. I haven't been sleeping. Really understanding the signs of our body and being able to listen and say, okay, I need to drink more water. I need to get more rest. I need to go for some walks. I need to get some fresh juice. And so having that in a place that it's never been, at 30th and Troost, in the history of our city, it's paramount. It's something that I'll go to my grave being proud of introducing to our city in this way.
So with that awareness comes education.
Yes.
So do you do a lot of speaking around and talking with people to kind of educate?
I do. I speak a ton. Kids are typically, my audience of choice. What I find is that, adults can be a bit set in their ways.
Yes.
And, I think that we may not realize it, but I'm a father now. And what I recognize is that my children are here to really teach me. And so if we can get into the ears and hearts and minds of children, and they can carry this message much further than I ever humanly could. And so I'm constantly talking to kids. I teach smoothie making workshops at Operation Breakthrough.
Okay.
We do health workshops at the store. But really the information that we give is not so much like, getting down into the macros of how you should eat, or it's really a very, very simple approach of saying, hey, just when you sit down in front of something, think about what you're eating or drinking more times than you don't. And so this really practical approach to say that we're not like food scientists, we're not these health gurus or experts. All I know is that if my grandma did more of this and less of that, then she would have got more time with us. We would have got to hug her more times. Sure. And I know that that reality is so many other people's reality because food-related illnesses is the number one killer of people, period. It's not guns. It's not plane crashes. It's not politics. I mean, it might be close, but food-related illnesses, unfortunately, it's the number one killer of people.
Yeah, most definitely. It reminds me of when I worked at the B.B. King Museum and Delta Interpretive Center in Indianola, Mississippi, in the Delta. We had a summer camp for kids called The Art of Living Smart. And so part of it was dancing and singing and writing, and also bringing nutritionists in who would teach the kids how to make healthy snacks. Because at that time, Mississippi was the number one state of obesity. Wow. And Mr. King was diabetic. So, and they had a catering kitchen, and so the kids would come in. And so it kind of reminds me of, starting young with kids and showing them alternative ways of eating and drinking and taking care of themselves.
Absolutely. Because as a child, you really you have this captive audience, So what they're exposed to, that's what they'll lean into. Like, vegetables only become nasty because they've been exposed to Kool-Aid, or like I was, we drank Kool-Aid and we had all this stuff. And so then when you get to a vegetable, it's like, this is not. And so, I think kids are very important.
Agreed. So, as an entrepreneur, what advice would you give to others who are looking to start their own business? Do you sometimes go out and speak about that from the entrepreneur perspective?
I mean, it's a journey. Being an entrepreneur is, it's a journey that requires this deep-seated level of passion, which then leads into fortitude and being able to just stay and say, you know what, no matter how hard this next thing is, we know we got to keep putting our feet down and keep moving forward. And so I talk about entrepreneurship through that lens quite often.
Because you said a word. You said fortitude. So that
you
seriously,
you have to have it.
You do,
because so we just celebrated 9 years in business, and we haven't arrived. We haven't reached arrival, but
you're still in your infancy. You feel? Or
I don't feel like we're in our infancy. I think that my focus is always why you say you do what you do. Does it really? Is there a through line to it that reaches the actual soil? Can you actually point to something and say, yeah, why we do this, you can see it right there. And that it's not just this talking pattern. And so I stay really, really tethered to that. I stay tethered to the present moment, the present day, really cultivating the idea of team inside of entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship I think it's often viewed as this very lonely journey. And it can be, right? There has to be a visionary. There has to be someone at the tip of the spear. But what I've learned most is that the greatest entrepreneurs cultivate people the best. They elevate team the best. They realize that they really are just the flashlight. They're not the battery.
Wow, I love that.
And so I think that I'm realizing more and more that God's given me the ability to show a broad walking path in front of me, but it's the people that I'm cultivating around me that'll actually give it the energy to get us there.
Okay. How many do you have on your team right now?
So we have a team of, and this fluctuates pretty often.
Okay.
But right now we're sitting at about 22 employees.
Oh, wow. Okay. So Kansas City has a rich jazz history. Do you see parallels between the improvisational nature of jazz and your approach to business?
Absolutely. So, I mean, a lot of our drink names have Kansas City ties to them. This one, we actually own the trademark for, Vine Street Greens.
Okay.
On the surface, it's just another green juice name. But the reason I named it Vine Street Greens is because I wanted to honor that the ability for this art form to be improvised into something that became likely one of the greatest art forms to ever exist. It came through pain, it came through struggle, it came through the ability to pivot and the ability to find freedom in that struggle. And so this juice, I wanted to honor something that's rich in Kansas City and give it more of a rootedness, if you will. And in entrepreneurship, that's what it is for me. If I can't point back to why I'm doing this, why I'm carrying weight on my shoulders, why I'm enduring stress, why I'm constantly wanting to create something different. If there's no why or no passion or no purpose that goes beyond money for me, I can't do it. And jazz has a sense of rootedness in it that I think is powerful, that it'll last the test of time. And it has to this point, and it will outlive all of us in this room.
Yes.
And so entrepreneurship, I think when done right, it'll outlast us. You know, I'm not here to accumulate digits on a digital screen that exists in this place that other people deem to be valuable. I'm not here to accumulate money. I'm not here to accumulate wealth. My time here should be spent moving things, changing things, improving things. My breath shouldn't be spent just looking at a digital number and saying, how can I get that bigger to play this game that people created? The rootedness in jazz music, the culture of jazz, the richness of it, what you feel in this room when you look at these pictures and the joy in their faces and what they created. Entrepreneurship, when done right, it should parallel jazz very, very closely, because there's a power in this room. I'm looking at stuff that jazz stood up during dark moments, right? And there are entrepreneurs that stand up during dark moments. And so, I see a very deep parallel.
So we're sitting next to an exhibit on Jay McShann, who is a Kansas City legend, but he came from Muskogee as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if your grandmother knew him or if they lived during the same. Yeah, this was on purpose. No. But a lot of great things come out of Oklahoma. And I just wanted to point out that Jay McShann hailed from Muskogee, Oklahoma, like your grandmother.
Wow.
So it's pretty special to be seated next to this exhibit. How do you celebrate your rewarding moments that you've experienced with Ruby Jean's Juicery?
I find pleasure in service. I find a reward in service. And so, I just always want to make sure that if we are being like celebrated for something, that celebration flows back to the people that delivered it to us, to our customers, to our community. So we celebrate it, but we also just share it. We share it, and we share it through our efforts. And like, for instance, my 40th birthday just passed. And so,
well, happy belated.
Thank you very much. In lieu of any gifts or anything like that, I ask people to donate to Operation Breakthrough, or to come out and serve with us, pick up trash, something like that. And so that's typically, my birthdays are normally days of service, because I think the best that I've ever felt is when my hand is giving somebody something.
Wow.
And so that's just the way I've always been. I don't, I like things. I like material stuff and trophies and, all these accolades and stuff. And it's cool to sit on a wall. But recently I did this exercise where every single award that I had won personally, or Ruby Jeans had won, I was sitting in my office one day, I started looking around, and it started to feel like this weight. And so I boxed it all up.
Really?
Every single thing. And I pushed it aside because it's not to dishonor the awards and the accolades, but I think a lot of times we start to hang our hat and our coat on these things and these accomplishments. And the journey is still so lengthy. And so these accolades and these celebratory moments start to become they start to become weights. And so my method has always been to serve, because I just feel the most refreshed when I'm giving somebody something.
Wow, that is so selfless. I love that. So what legacy do you hope to leave through Ruby Jean's Juicery and your work in promoting health and wellness?
What legacy? I don't know. I think that I want people to, I want somebody to stand up when I leave and say, had it not been for this thing that came from this man or this man himself, then my outcome wouldn't have been what it is.
Okay. So the impact.
If one person gets up there and says, that dude changed something for me, then I did what I'm here for.
What do you consider your big break?
My big break.
Yeah, your big break.
We've had a lot of really cool moments. Getting into Whole Foods and, selling our juice at Whole Foods. But I think that I haven't arrived to it. I think that we're still just accumulating portions of our journey that will take us to some big moment that we'll only then turn back and give more with. One of the things that I think that was paramount was when we purchased our real estate at 30th and Troost. Okay. It wasn't it's making me emotional. It wasn't like a back patting moment, but the real estate at 30th and Troost is on the west side of Troost. And so decades prior, I couldn't have. My grandpa couldn't have. He couldn't have purchased it. Wouldn't have been allowed.
Right.
And so
that's monumental. That's really monumental.
To be able to purchase real estate on what was a plantation just up the street from where people were getting hung on land that, we weren't allowed to exist on, to purchase on, that, just by virtue of this line, and to then me come through and be able to sign my name, have the ability through all of what people have poured into us to say, that's ours. It's not a big break, but it's a moment in time that I'll never forget. And we purchased it during Black History Month.
So and even more significant.
Very significant for me. And so it wasn't a break, but it was something that I hold near and dear to my heart. And I don't talk about it a lot, but when I think about it, it's special. It's extremely, extremely special. And it's bigger than me. Yeah. It's something that, it's ours. It's ours. And so I get to nourish people, from a place that at a point people weren't allowed to even, that looked like me, weren't allowed to even be. So I'm grateful for it.
Very significant. I'd like to think that scripture in the Bible, in the book of Esther, for such a time as this, that when you arrived on the scene, that was your time to make a splash.
Yeah, a lot of sacrifice. A lot of sacrifice from a lot of people in front of me.
Yeah, it had to be you. I don't think it could have been anybody else. It had to be you. Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to an episode of the Big Break Podcast. Now be sure to like, review, and subscribe to the Big Break on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. We also want to thank Missouri Humanities. Their financial support helps us in connecting Missourians to the people, places, and ideas that shape society. So stay connected for more incredible conversations from the American Jazz Museum, because this is where jazz lives.